Pittsburgh Steeler fans, this is Behind the Steel Curtain editor Dave Schofield coming at you on Tuesday night. We're back to the normal spot. We're back to a normal week. This is the Scho Bro Show. It's just after 9 o'clock. And with me, as always, I say as always, I can say it this week, is my big brother, Rich. Rich, how's it going tonight?
Still waiting to breathe.
Yeah, still waiting to breathe.
So,
all
right. So, you can say this week. Because everybody was wondering whose fault it was that we were late. Actually, we were both on here, and it was both our faults that we were late getting started tonight.
Yes.
Because we were into some discussion early on because I will not be here next week.
Yes, so you get a much-needed vacation.
I am going on vacation. My wife and I are going on vacation next week, and I will not be here. And we were talking about what we might do in my absence.
Yeah, just throwing around some ideas. So we were trying to take care of some clerical stuff, and then we said, wait a second, we can talk about this after the show. Let's
the natives are getting restless.
The natives are getting restless. That's what we say. That we say it almost every week. That's what we say whenever we go to start. Meaning that's our way of saying the live chat's ready to go. Let's get at this. Oh my goodness, I am so glad it's Tuesday. I needed a Tomlin Tuesday, and somebody's like, what do you mean you need a Tomlin Tuesday? I need a Tomlin Tuesday because I need to turn the page. That's the worst part of a Thursday night loss, is that you don't feel like you're moving on to the next opponent until after all the games from said week are complete. You know, you can't move on to week 4 when the rest of the NFL hasn't played week 3. It lingers. It bugs you. It's just in there. I mean, and what's terrible,
it bugs you,
if it was a win, what would it be? What's that?
Yeah, I was going to say, if the Steelers would have won, it would have been a lot more fun.
Yeah, absolutely. But they were on the road. And I keep saying this. I had it up at one point, and I don't even remember what it was because I did it in another show, and I didn't even remember it for now. You know, when's the last time the Steelers won a Thursday game on the road? You know, it was Thanksgiving against the Colts in, what was that, 2018. I don't think it was 2018, 2016. Well, one of those years in there.
A while ago.
A while ago. But notice when they are at home on Thursday nights, they score tons of points. We were there for the, as your shirt says, dilly game against Tennessee. They put up 52 the next year at home on a Thursday against Carolina. Thursday nights, it's nice when other football's on. I keep saying this, but I don't like it when the Steelers play. I don't like the disadvantage. It'd be nice to get a home game so you could get some advantage of that. But I know a lot of people were upset, and how could they lose that game? It takes every little thing to win a football game. I mean, unless you're coming out and dominating and blowing a team out of the water, you can go back and look at specific spots. Jeff quotes the Joe Gibbs all the time that a football game oftentimes comes down to 4 or 5 key plays. You just never know when they're going to be. But unless you're already in a game where you're up, 35-7, there little things can get you. And when you're talking a short week on the road, the likelihood of the little things going against you rather than for you, I feel get magnified. I don't want to use it as excuse, but that's about as bad up against the wall as you can be. Thursday nights, early in the season, yuck. I mean, week 2 would have, to me, is worse because you really don't know what you have there. But it's over. It's over. At least the Thursday night is over. And you've done a show since I've done a show. The only show that I've done since this game has happened was I did the Mike Tomlin post-game press conference, and I did a small guest spot on the post-game show as the rest of us were all recording stuff. It was towards the end because I finished my other stuff. You had a whole show Sunday night, which I enjoyed. I didn't get to catch it live because I was sitting in a theater in our nation's capital, taking my daughter for her birthday present, scheduled around when the Steelers didn't play, to go see Hamilton. So that's what I did when the Steelers don't play. So I didn't catch it live, but I did watch the replay of it. Have a good time with that one.
Jeffrey Benedict and I each, we decided to take one for the team and go ahead and take that Sunday night show. And
yeah,
it actually, you know what, for Jeffrey and I, it was kind of fun because he and I talked a couple minutes before we started the show, and it seemed like everybody in the live chat, their mood and everything about that game was the same as ours was on Sunday night. Like,
yeah,
I think we were all in there in misery together Sunday night.
Because I'm telling you, it carries over. It happened Thursday, but Sunday night you still felt the same way. That's what was so frustrating. All right, we can get into that more. Let's go ahead and hit some of these news items. Some of it's coming up in the live chat anyway. Mike Tomlin spoke today. I already talked about how grateful I was. We got on sidetracked about, Thursday Night Football sucks. But the injury report, where there's not an official injury report. It's just the updates on injury. Big one that came out of nowhere. No one saw this coming until Mike Tomlin mentioned it in the press conference, and that is Minka Fitzpatrick is in the concussion protocol. Yikes. I mean, what's nice is that with the extended time, he has, for all he's back as a full participant at practice tomorrow. Don't know. He's got to move through the protocol. But what do you think about when you heard that?
I was like, when did that happen?
Yeah. When did that happen? Yeah. Who knows at what point in that game? I will tell you this. I don't know how he. Now, don't take this the wrong way. I was going to say, I don't know how he could have got a concussion because he didn't get much of a chance to hit anybody, because every time they went to pass, they saw, 39's here. We're going to throw it as far away from him as we can.
Yeah.
That was their strategy, and it worked. Steele's got to remember that. Wherever you put 39, teams are going to look to go the other way. So you can kind of have an idea where that's going to go. So you got Minka Fitzpatrick with the concussion. You've got Ahkello Witherspoon, who left the game with a hamstring. Don't know how he's going to be. Kevin Dotson, once again, with the ankle. I think that's the same ankle that's going to, at times possibly nag him throughout the season. Maybe it's a different ankle. Maybe it's a different injury. Not sure. But when you hear Dotson ankle, again, that's kind of what you start to assume. But some of these guys, like especially Dotson, it almost seemed like Coach Tomlin was mentioning it so people wouldn't be shocked if they showed up on the injury report the next day as being limited or something like that. They might even be full. You just don't know. Right. But then the other one was because there was a report coming out right before the press conference by one Jerry Dulac that the Steelers were hosting a punter to possibly, most likely, sign to the practice squad, which did happen later in the day. Because one Presley Harvin III was dealing with some hip discomfort after the game, is what Mike Tomlin said it was in the press conference. And therefore, just to make sure that they have a punter and someone available, the Steelers signed Jordan Berry to the practice squad. Rich, what do you think of that one?
I laughed my full head off because I could hear Jeff screaming from his day job as teaching physical education. I can hear him screaming all the way out here in Western Maryland.
Here's what's funny is that came through. That just so happened to be, when Jeff was actually at his computer during the day, during his planning time. Well, there was another breaking news article just before that. It was something we actually got tipped off to this by someone in a comment of Jeffrey's in my Vertex article. And they say, hey, the Steelers depth chart's different. Did anyone notice when that changed? Yeah. Then I officially got the press release to the Steelers media, went into the Steelers media page, and that's where they got the official depth chart. And then everyone starts reporting on it. I'd already been, I'll write that article for later this afternoon to say, hey, does this mean anything? And then it came about that it actually meant something. And that is that the Steelers moved Montravius Adams to the starting nose tackle and Tyson Alualu to the reserve nose tackle. Coach Tomlin was asked about it, and he just said he's been asked about Adams. He said he's playing better than Tyson right now. That was his answer. Rich, what do you think of that move?
I'm trying not to actually read too much into it. Hey, I will say this. I'm glad that Adams is playing fairly well.
Yeah.
And I thought he's played very well for the season. I don't think Tyson is, I don't say that he's not 100% from his injury last year, but I think he's still working his way back a little bit. And honestly, why not make the switch? Because that way then it's not a question if suddenly Tyson's not playing quite as many snaps.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, they didn't announce it. It just showed up there. So to me, I think that was kind of multiple fold. You released the depth chart and out. I mean, these things are strategic. I mean, think about it. You had the clerical error that lasted just shy of 20 hours before they fixed it, which I still think was ironic that the next day they had another clerical error where they listed a player on the injury report with the wrong position group. Instead of LB, they had DB, and they changed it within 20 minutes. But something huge like the depth chart, they waited until an hour before the press conference before they changed it going into week one, that infamous clerical error. Then they changed this. To me, yeah, I see why they did the change. But the reason you actually do it and do it then is so people could see, hey, they did change the depth chart. It's not like we have to ask Mike Tomlin if the depth chart's changed, because you knew they were really asking you about another position. So sometimes I think these things are a little bit strategic. Let's go ahead and put a different change out there now so people know that if there was a change, we would have already said it. And there it was. So that kind of avoided that question throughout the press conference. He'd answered it after the game anyway. So I thought that was interesting. So I wrote that article. And then minutes later, we had the Jer Bear report. Jerry Dulock talking about Jordan Berry. I'm like, Jeff, your turn. I specifically made Jeff write that article with his name. A lot of times with these breaking news articles, it might have Jeff's name on it or my name on it. A lot of times both of us are working on it. If you can't tell when there's a breaking news article that has Jeff Hartman's name on it, if you get a paragraph in there or two that talks about the player and what they had done in the past and their stats from the past and everything else gives them a little bit of a history, Jeff didn't write that. I wrote that. We work on these together to get them out quickly. So if you see them error in there and you blame it on Jeff, it's probably me. But I wanted specifically Jeff's name to be on that article. And then when they made the move official, I said, if they make multiple moves other than just swapping someone out, we'll do a new article. If not, we'll just update the old one, because I wanted to keep Jeff's name on it. For those of you that watch our podcast, you know, or listen to him, you know that Jeff has always been critical of Jordan Berry, and it's just become an ongoing thing. So, but hopefully he doesn't. Then we have to use him. I'm going to ask you a question about this. I know we're still going with the news, but I mean, we're just talking Steelers, what we're doing. I thought it was very interesting, the corresponding move with the practice squad.
Yeah.
That was head-scratching that they released Delonte Scott from the practice squad.
Yeah, that actually that surprised me a little bit.
Because that's the player they elevated from the practice squad the last 2 weeks. And I'm pretty sure I write these articles and I'm going from memory, and it's been a while. I'm pretty sure one of the things that they changed with the practice squad elevations this year is that you can do it 3 times rather than 2. So it's not like they're like, well, we can't elevate him anymore. We might as well not keep him. They still had another one as far as my memory serves correctly. And I'm sure maybe someone in the live chat can confirm that or not if they remembered as well. But, that one, I mean, so that tells me that David, I'm gonna go with the way I was told it was pronounced. I'm gonna do my best. Nene is probably then, now after getting some extra time and a full week of practice, going to be the player that's going to be in the reserve. The only other player they have is another outside linebacker, Anderson. I can't remember his first name. That's on the practice squad. Or you could even see Delonte Scott back with the team once some other things happen. I just thought that one was curious.
Yeah, a little bit.
Everyone to let go the guy that they've been playing. So what do you think?
I kind of said the same thing, but it was one of those where I trust they know what they're doing.
Yeah. Unless they're like, yeah, we saw him for 2 games now and we don't really want to see anymore. I don't know that it's that either. I mean, he didn't have any, he only played 16 snaps on defense between the 2 games. So I don't know. So that was interesting. Did I miss anything else with the news? I think that's the news.
I think
and everything from Coach Tomlin's press conference. We can talk a little bit about last week. Do you really want to talk about last week, or just kind of talk about how the season's going as you're going forward here into this next stretch?
I'd like to bring up something in one of the lovely articles that I read on behindthesteelcurtain.com, your one-stop shop for all things Pittsburgh Steelers. Mm-hmm. I read yours and Jeffrey Benedict's Vertex today.
Yes.
Fabulous.
I'll be honest, I had to add my notes in there because there was a couple things that I saw that Jeffrey didn't talk about. And I don't know if you noticed that I threw in some comments there.
I did, but here is what Jeffrey brought something up in that article that I actually noticed week 1.
Mm-hmm.
And was wondering if I was seeing it correctly or if it was just me.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened, that the things Jeffrey brought up from the game in film showed me that it wasn't just me. That he was seeing what I was. And it was the part where he was talking about Mitchell Trubisky having issues getting the ball to guys in their open window at the correct time.
Yes.
I had noticed that in week 1. I want to say that it was on a throw to Claypool. I noticed, I was like, hey, Claypool was open, had a chance to catch the ball and run. But by the time Trubisky got him the ball, there was a guy right there and got a hand on it, knocked it away.
I remember in week 2, a play now, because there's been a whole other game I can't remember, the same. It was a throw to Deontay Johnson. Oh, it was the one that was it intercepted or almost intercepted against the Patriots. And I'm like, he was open 2 steps before the ball got there. Where he threw it was where he was no longer open. So that was kind of something I noticed on one play the week before, but I know what you mean. Jeffrey did do a good job of pointing that out.
So here's then what I'm noticing. You know, again, it's not necessarily related to that game, but just as I notice things going forward. It's I don't know. It's interesting through the years, guys I've watched here and there, but here of late, I can think of things for the Steelers. All right. You know, back in 2019, when Ben goes down, and then, you know, we have the infamous, you know, we have the stuff going with Mason, and next thing you know, we've got Devlin Duck Hodges in playing quarterback for the Steelers, right? Duck Hodges would be, you know, he'd probably admit to you that he didn't necessarily have the big, he hadn't had the big arm. I mean, honestly, if he had an arm like what Mitchell Trubisky has, Duck Hodges would be playing in the NFL somewhere. Where Duck Hodges was good, and I saw this in the preseason game that year against Kansas City, was Duck understood the windows for receivers, could see them ahead of time, you know, could anticipate the window and deliver the ball to that receiver in the best place for them to catch the ball.
In other words, it's kind of like calling it throwing them open.
Yeah,
you know, they might not be open when you release but it's a window in there because they're not open when you release the ball, but they're open when they get to where the ball's going to be because of where you threw it to.
Correct.
And it's not that you see them open and you throw it when they're open, and by the time the ball gets there, they're not open.
Correct.
Is that what you're saying? Okay.
Yes. Okay. You know, that is something that I thought had. That's actually what he brings to playing quarterback. His ability to understand the routes that the receivers are running, see the defense, and based on the defense, recognize where that window is going to be and make sure the ball is in that window at the same time as the receiver.
Yes.
Okay. Mitchell Trubisky does not have that gift. Mitchell Trubisky wants to see a receiver open before he throws the ball. But what he doesn't understand is if he throws the ball when the guy is open, by the time the ball gets there, the guy's not open anymore.
Yep. And honestly, I will say I think Kenny Pickett's better at that from what he saw from what you saw in the preseason.
Yes.
So
I did not think I was going to be. I did not think I was going to be one of these folks who was starting to feel and want to call for Kenny Pickett. But I'm kind of there now.
All right, so we can get into that a little bit. Here's the thing when it comes to that. Now, it's funny because I've been accused a lot of saying things that I didn't actually say. Is one of these things. Oh, you didn't want the Steelers to draft a quarterback. No, that's not what I said. I didn't want the Steelers to force drafting a quarterback.
Yes.
I wanted the draft to come to them. If the right quarterback was there at 20, or even if you had to move a little bit, you do it. But don't settle for the fourth best quarterback.
Right.
Don't. I didn't want them to do that. And obviously that would have been a bad idea because the fourth best quarterback was taken in round 3, round 4? You know what I'm saying? So that's the thing. But the way the draft fell, that they had their choice of the guy that they wanted, it made sense to make that call. So I didn't want them going into the draft predetermined that they're taking a quarterback. But I kind of like I didn't want them the year before predetermined it was going to be Najee Harris. But the way the draft fell, it made sense for them to make that pick there based on everything else. So that was one. Also, the whole thing of when there was the clerical error, because I had said I was not shocked if the Steelers were going to slow play Kenny Pickett to a point that he would even start the season as the number 3. Right. Then and it looked like they were even possibly going to do it. I only wanted to do it if that's what they felt like they needed to do. I'd have been fine if they decided Kenny Pickett was number 1, but I also understood what they were doing if they were going to do it as number 3. And a lot of this is because we claim to think that we know more than what the Steelers know that are there all the time. Let me remind you of something about Kenny Pickett. Just remember this, Steelers fans. I'm not trying to poo-poo on your parade. I'm just trying to bring back a little bit dose of reality.
Yep.
Tomorrow, Wednesday, the 28th of September, will be exactly 1 month since the last time any Steelers fan saw Kenny Pickett throw a pass, with the exception of someone who went early enough to watch him warm up in a game an hour before the game in the stadium in week 2. That's it. We haven't seen Kenny Pickett throw a pass in a month. But you know who has seen Kenny Pickett throwing passes even within the last week? The Pittsburgh Steelers and the coaching staff. So we can talk about knowing what we think is best and why aren't they doing this. We have to remember that's their job. And if we could do their job, then why are we here? Honestly. So, but we can have our opinions on whether or not it's the right call or not. But ultimately, that's what it's going to come down to. I'm going to tell us a little story. You ready for a story, Rich? Hey, Rich, what'd you have for dinner tonight?
Pizza. Sorry,
Pizza,
it took me a
did
minute
you?
to think.
Okay. You know what I had? I had venison steak.
Oh,
that's what I had for dinner tonight. On the grill and everything. Here's the thing with steak. I'm just going to say, we'll just say steak in general. Here's the thing with steak. You could take your steak. There's a bunch of different ways you could cook it, everything. You could take that steak and you can throw it right on the grill right away if that's what you want to do. But there's something else you can do with that steak. You know what I did with my steak today? I did not throw it on the grill right away.
You threw it on the ground and stomped on it some to tenderize it.
No, I made a very nice marinade. I marinated that steak for quite some time. Now, you can choose not to marinate your steak and throw it right on the grill right away, or you could choose to marinate your steak. But once you make the choice to marinate your steak, you know what you don't do? You don't throw it in the marinade and pull it out in 5 minutes and think you're going to grill up a good steak.
Yeah.
You once you make the decision, you've got to at least let it marinate long enough for it to matter. Hoping that that's making a better steak, because you could still throw it on the grill and it could still work. But now what it is once you choose to let it marinate, you want to make it the best that it could be. You've already made that decision. So to me, that's kind of how I look at with Kenny Pickett. Some people are like, the Steelers need to know if he's going to be the answer moving forward, or they're going to have to draft another quarterback this year. Okay, I can agree with that. But there's 14 games left. I don't think they need 14 games to do that.
Nope.
They made the decision. So I understand, not like Mike Tomlin says, we're not going to blow in the wind. Okay. I sat and watched the Patriots game with Jeff and Brian. First time we ever all three watched a game together. I was frustrated with watching Kenny Pickett on the sidelines while Mitch Trubisky was in there leaning back on his back foot, throwing passes. You knew at the snap of the ball who he was throwing to because he was looking that way the whole time. And it was just very frustrating. It wasn't as bad on Thursday night, and I expected it to be. Okay, but I had low expectations for that game and for everything else. Kind of like with the offensive line. I'm so pleasantly surprised with the offensive line this season because of the expectations I had for them. So to me, one of the things I brought up in an article that I said 3 things that aren't as bad for the Pittsburgh Steelers as what they seem. I did that on Sunday. Did you catch that one?
I don't remember.
Yeah.
You talk about it and then I'll remember.
Yeah, but my 3 things were the offensive line, because there's still people out there that don't watch.
I did.
They don't watch the offensive line to know that they're getting better and to know that they've actually, on part of the stronger part of the offense the last 2 games. But they don't watch the line enough. They just assume they're bad because they've heard that they're bad for so long.
Right.
Don't do that. They're not that bad. 2, I kind of put the run defense in perspective. Not that it's good, but fans are thinking that the Steelers' run defense is last in the league again this year, like they were last year. They're not. They're down there pretty bad in yardage, but yards per carry, they're actually 13th. Right now, the reason the Steelers are giving up so many rushing yards is because they've had so many rushing attempts right at them. Even against Cleveland, the Steelers had more yards per carry than what Cleveland did. But Cleveland had 16 more rushing attempts. And then the third thing is, I'm like, Mitchell Trubisky's not as bad as what a lot of the fans are making him out to be. I'm not saying he's good, but he's also not so bad. If it wasn't Kenny Pickett, if the Steelers did not go quarterback in the first round, there would be a whole different perspective about Mitch Trubisky right now. Oh, he's got to get his feet under him. This whole offense needs to get going, blah, blah, blah. The worst thing that happened is you take that first round quarterback and now everyone wants it now. They want it now. They want it now. They want it now. So I don't think the Steelers are going to do it that soon unless things come out this week and they are bad. And they are really, really bad. Because last Thursday, it wasn't good enough to win, but it wasn't as bad as it was the week before, in my opinion.
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, the first half, I was just like, wow, what's this team? Where'd they come from?
Yeah.
And then we got the second half.
Yeah. And honestly, the little things, the last question to Mike Tomlin today in the press conference, I know we got a super chat. I'm going to get to it. The last question to Mike Tomlin in the press conference today was about Coach Tomlin. So were you aware that a player could be downfield on a shovel pass? And he's like, evidently they can. They're like, a lot of people were saying by the letter of the law, that was the call, but they don't. Some people are confusing the pro rules versus the college rules. The college rules, you can be downfield as long as the pass is behind the line of scrimmage. Sorry that Chooks came off the line so fast. If he would have already been engaged with a blocker and been where he was, he would have been fine, but he was still on his way to get him. I don't know if he was too slow or too fast. You know what I'm saying?
I
And he
will
was
say,
a yard and a half to 2 yards downfield. You're really only allowed one. They don't normally call that.
I will say this. Did you
Yeah.
watch the Monday night game last night?
I did not because I don't really care for either of those teams.
Okay. I didn't really either, but I watched a little bit.
Uh-huh.
Same flag, same play against the Giants.
So they did call the same thing.
Yes. Called the
Okay.
exact same thing.
Good.
It looked like a carbon copy of the Steelers play, and it was called.
And do you want to know why? I think teams run that play because last year I don't think they called it.
Right.
Yeah. So you do something that you think is going to be one thing, but it's not. Here's Steel Dog 88. He says, I've seen a lot of hate at OC Canada, but I don't think he can get a full blame until we see another quarterback run this offense. You know what? Steel Dog, I see what you're saying, but do you realize you could take this $5 screenshot, take it off the screen, jump in our DeLorean, go back in time to last season, probably about 2/3 of the way through, and paste it right on our show.
Yeah.
Because that's exactly what people said when it came to Matt Canada with Ben Roethlisberger in his offense. So the Steelers chose to bring in Mitch Trubisky. So to say that he can't run Canada's offense is different. I like what Jeffrey said in your Q&A, and that was that the offense that the Steelers want to run is with Matt Canada's stuff is well suited for Mitch Trubisky. But because of everything else, because of, I don't know that they have the confidence in the line, because of stuff with the receivers, the way things are working, the way Trubisky's playing, they're actually running a version of Matt Canada's offense that would actually be better suited for Kenny Pickett.
Yes.
So the question is, do you want to keep running the offense that you're running now and put the quarterback there that's better suited to run it? Or are you wanting your offense to improve to get to do the things that you're wanting to do with the quarterback that could actually do those things better? That was his opinion. I'm saying it makes sense. I'm not saying it's 100%. I don't have the data for that to say if he's 100% correct, but I wish I had the what Yin's talking about sound bites. I do the I can't verify if that's true, but it sure does sound right. Little thing that they say. So what's your thoughts there of that super chat there, Rich?
I kind of agree with what you were saying that Jeffrey had alluded to. It's like we've got an 8-cylinder car that's only running on about 6 cylinders right now. So, we got a few things that aren't firing off on the correct timing to keep us operating at peak performance. So, it's early still. Yeah. Let's give a couple more games and see if we can get all those cylinders firing.
Yeah.
And if you keep, since I'm talking cars, if you think in NASCAR, and they work on that car and get it out there, see if it runs better. And they come in and make some adjustments, see if that car runs better. It's going to take a couple times going out and see if we can get that offense running better. But then at a point, if it doesn't, then you're like, oh, maybe it's not the car. Maybe it's the driver.
Yeah. But how many laps? Many laps do they run before you figure that out?
That's right. Exactly. Yeah. So there you go.
Yeah. So, yeah, Jeffrey's chiming in. Okay, Jeffrey says the main reason I say that is the QB run game and downfield throws on the move. Sadly, those aren't working, so Trubisky's value is pretty low right now. But what I think it's interesting because, I know these numbers because I have to report on them every week. Sometimes I think they're accurate. Sometimes I think they're inaccurate. Sometimes I'm like, that doesn't pass my eye test. Sometimes it does. You guys know what I'm talking about. I'm talking about PFF, Pro Football Focus. Some people are like, oh, trash. It's not like it's not based on anything. You can't say it's complete garbage because they are basing it on watching film and scoring it. But the question is, do they always assess it properly? So it's not like I don't think they get all their plays right. I really don't. But it's not that it's not because of lack of diligence. So when I see a PFF score that's different than what I think, that makes me ask questions and start looking at things. Like when I see a player that's getting a low PFF, I still can't figure out why they constantly give Larry Ogunjobi a low PFF score. They did it when he was in Cincinnati. They did it when he was in Cleveland. But yet the people wanted to sign him to a big contract because of what he does. But PFF, it's almost like they don't get it. When teams don't throw up Minka Fitzpatrick and he makes the splash plays like Cleveland did, they give him a terrible coverage score. Well, what more do you want him to do? They're not throwing anyone towards him. If anything, he's trying to stay off on coverage to bait them into throwing towards him. And they won't. He doesn't need to cover his guys so well because it's obvious they're not going to throw it. So sometimes I wonder those. Do you know that Mitch Trubisky is the 14th ranked quarterback in according to PFF? He is in the top half. So part of me is like, are we blinded with our black and gold goggles? I have to go back and look at it and see. And that's why I'm saying it's not that he's good. What's that?
Or is there some really bad quarterback play in the NFL right now? That's the other question.
That's another good question. But I mean, that's, and people just like, oh, they're PFF. I don't listen to that. PFF is a joke. You can say it all you want, but it's not like they're taking numbers out of nowhere and throwing them up there. They are actually looking at film and evaluating players play by play by play. They have a whole I don't know how to say it. They employ a lot of people to do these things. So they still, and it's not one person grading the whole thing and all that. So it's not like it's based on anything, even though they still don't get it right, because you're basically trying to give an objective result for something that's subjective. That's ultimately what they're trying to do. But it doesn't mean they're always right. It doesn't mean they're always wrong. So sometimes we look at it when we like what they say, we say, oh, yay. But when we don't, it's like, oh, they can't do anything. So that's one of the things. I mean, let's see, for example, Mason Cole's the fourth best center in the NFL right now, according to them. And Chuks Okorafor is the sixth best tackle. But Chuks has been playing well. People hear about Chuks because he jumped on that guy and got called for downfield. Other than that, that's what you hear about him. But he's been playing well. But my thing is, so I have to ask myself, is Mitch Trubisky not as bad as what Steelers Nation is making him out to be? And then I also ask myself, is Kenny Pickett just built up so much in our mind? Like, I make jokes about this in the Slack channel. I said, they got to wait for Pickett to play a game when it's raining so he can show everyone how he walks on water, because that's what the Steelers Nation is doing with him right now. And I don't want it to be that either. I'm trying to ground some reality, but I still think there's people. I saw a comment earlier and then I lost it, where someone asked, so who's to blame? Is it Canada? Is it Trubisky? What is it? I think it's just the offense clicking all together. I mean, it could be one player messes up one play on first down. Somebody else doesn't do something right on second down. Somebody else misses something on third down, and it's a punt.
Yep.
That's kind of what our Vertex was talking about this week, is that it's a punt. That the Steelers' first 3 and out, Najee Harris only gets 1 yard. I still think it's because, my goodness, did Connor Hayward get blown up and his guy came the whole way down the line and made the tackle. Okay. That didn't help. Okay. Second down. I know Jeffrey's in here. He talked about Pat Freiermuth making a great block for Trubisky at 6 yards. I thought he blew the block, or Trubisky's getting 15. I thought it was not a good block, in my opinion. And then the third down play to Deontay Johnson that some people don't like, where Trubisky threw the ball. Bottom line is the ball was there in a catchable position. And Deontay Johnson, I don't think they counted it as a drop, because there was some good defense there. It was just off from being a big connection. I think it was a better thrown ball than the one that he threw to Pickens.
Yes.
That we'll look at for a long time. So, yeah. Okay. Jeffrey said, I worded that poorly. I meant the play design, not the execution. That makes sense. So, my thing is, But before we got to move on to next week, we got to talk about not blinking. But did you honestly think, outside of a bunch of turnovers, did you really think that the Steelers would make a move after 3 games at the quarterback position? No, not unless we were sitting here with a quarterback that had thrown 2 touchdowns and 7 interceptions. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
If I was seeing a lot of glaring mistakes, are there mistakes? Yes, there are mistakes, but they're not those big, glaring, in your face types of things going on. No, I didn't think they'd make a change. If the change happens now, it's where I felt it would probably happen all along.
Yeah.
And that was they will probably reevaluate up towards their bye week and think, do we want to make a change now? And see what the answer is there. If the answer is no, then the only other time you're going to do it is with probably just a couple of games to go.
Yeah. And also, some people would say this. I don't think people are like, you don't want to get Pickett killed behind that offensive line until they show they could block. I don't think that's really the Steelers' mentality. But maybe if you look at the offense as a whole, if you decided you weren't going to start Kenny Pickett to start the year, you're like, well, this offense needs to grow a lot. Do you want it to grow with Pickett, or do you want it to grow and then Kenny Pickett can come in to a more established offense? You've got to make a choice. They made one. It seems like that's what they're doing. Back to my steak analogy. That's like saying, oh, I'm ready to eat. It's marinated enough, but I didn't turn on the grill. I didn't fire up the charcoal. You still got to have everything else ready. So at this point, do you want the offense kind of still being a little bit in disarray? Does changing the quarterback fix the other problems of the offense? It might make them better, but it's still kind of early. It's almost like you want more data before they do it. If they came out and said, we're changing to Kenny Pickett right now, you know what I would have said? All right, you saw a problem and you fixed it. They say they're coming out and not changing Kenny Pickett right now. You know what I say? There's something else that they identify that needs to happen, that it's not all on the feet at number 10. And here's another thing that just shows how our perception is off. I see a lot of people complaining about the problem is Trubisky doesn't push the ball down the field. Do you know he has the second most deep passes of any quarterback in the league?
Yep, I saw that.
19. One has 20, and it was Mac Jones. Okay. He's 4th most in deep pass attempts, percentage-wise, meaning like pass attempts. Deep passes versus his total number of attempts. The problem is they're not connecting on them. The problem is the completion. They're only like 31%, which is like 24th or something. So that's the problem. So it's not like they're not throwing it deep. They're just not throwing it deep well. So to say they don't push it down enough, then maybe that's people not watching the rest of the NFL that realizes that other teams aren't pushing it downfield. That's not something that you always do right away from the beginning. You take your shots when you can. Just a lot of different things that sometimes you just need more of a whole perspective. But it's what's going on. When the Steelers feel the time is right, they will do it. It's not going to be because that's what people were chanting at Acrisure Stadium.
Right.
So yeah. There was something else I was going to bring up, but I don't remember. So I'll think of it eventually. Rich, don't blink, because shockingly, this might be the Steelers' most important game of the first half of their season.
Yeah, it could be.
Yeah.
I look at it as this is a game the Steelers have to win. They have to win this Sunday.
Yeah. I like that you say they have to win. I don't like the term must win. Must win to me is a game that if you don't win this, you are out of contention. But this is one they got to have.
I'm not even thinking about it for contention reasons.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about it for the mental state of the team. They have to win this game.
Yeah. Here's the reminder. The Pittsburgh Steelers going into the season, they didn't have a line at first because of the whole Deshaun Watson thing, but then that ended up coming out later eventually. In their first 8 games, This game coming up was the only one they were favored to win. Underdogs, all the rest, all of them. Underdogs week 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and 8. This is the only one the Steelers were favored to win. If you don't get that one, then you have to steal an extra one that you weren't supposed to win. They've already stole one. But what sucks is they had the opportunity to steal 3, and they only got 1. Yeah. So that's what's frustrating. They weren't supposed. The Steelers are supposed to be 0-3 right now, according to the people that set these lines. And man, sometimes it's crazy how good they are at these lines, because we keep getting some pushes with some of our staff picks, because they're like they set a point total and boom, it hits it exactly. So there wasn't a lot of expectations of this team coming in, and then you don't have the defensive player of the year. That they're not, the Steelers are not in a good spot right now.
Look, is there going to be things when that you're missing when you don't have the reigning defensive player of the year? Yes.
Yeah.
But I'm not even saying great. I'm just saying good. You might even just be able to say decent teams figure out how to win some games without that person.
Yeah, and I mean, some people are going to say, "Oh, well, what happens? You know, you should be better than if you lose one person that it affects your defense so much." That's what being the defensive player of the year means. It's basically the defensive MVP, because they don't give MVP to defensive players. Have they ever? Do you remember a time where they ever give the MVP to the defensive player?
Oh, I don't know.
They probably have, but it's been a long time. I can't remember. But in other words, what they're saying is that you are such a game changer, you mean that much. The Steelers, you're like, oh, well, they don't have an answer if they don't have Watt. Of course you don't. You don't replace a player like that where it just comes in and it's a seamless transition. You're going to take a loss with stuff somewhere. So you're going to be weaker on defense without TJ available. But you got to overcome it.
Yeah.
You still got to be able to overcome it. Yeah. See, here's another thing. People want to also look ahead to, wow, they've got to win this one, because after that, my goodness, it's Buffalo, it's Tampa, it's Miami, it's Philadelphia. Did I get them in the right order? I'm pretty sure I did.
So.
And, you know, Miami and Philadelphia, you didn't think they were necessarily the toughest games before, but now they're the only teams that haven't lost yet. You know, so you look at those games, you're like, oh, that's bad. But I know fans, it's okay to look ahead at the games. I say, I don't want the Steelers looking ahead of those games. I don't really want to look ahead at those games, because so much can change in one more game to make you feel about going stuff moving forward. If the Steelers come out and dominate this game, are you going to feel a little bit better going into the next week?
Well, of course, you always feel a game like that.
Yeah. So there's more people, oh, they got to win this week because they're guaranteed to lose the next 4. You know what's going to help you figure that out more? Seeing how they do this week. So I don't want the Steelers to win this week. I want the Steelers to play well and win this week. A victory isn't enough. You've got to play well and win.
Yes.
Don't blink. Don't blink. If you're going to blink, cut your eyelids off. Right?
Sure. No, that's hilarious. You said that, cut your eyelids off, because actually then what immediately ran through my head was the old Tom and Jerry cartoons where Tom, you know, holds his eyelids open with like toothpicks.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, I thought you were going to tell the story growing up where you were trying to get me when we were trying to learn to barefoot ski, and you were trying to get me to jump out of my skis because we couldn't get it to work another way. And I face planted in the water. And when you drove the boat up to me, my eyelids flipped up.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. I forgot about that until you just said it, but now I'm remembering.
Oh man. I mean, you had the boat gunned because you had to be going so fast to barefoot. And I just face planted.
Yeah.
Oh, it was brutal. Hey, I'm going to bring this up. I've answered a question like this before. Okay. And Wes says, Dave, let me ask you a question. If it was today, I get that it's not. Do you think we could beat Buffalo and Tampa, etc.? Today, no, you don't feel that way because you're basing it off of, I mean, You're not basing it off of week 1. They've played 2 games since then. You're probably not even basing it off week 2. You base it off the last game that they played. So therefore, if the Steelers come out, let's say they win that game, 35-7, the next game. I mean, regardless of who they were playing, wouldn't you then feel better going into it? Because look, Tampa Bay hasn't been able to score points this year, but their defense is really good. So that's what you kind of Buffalo. Steeler fans are upset that the Steelers offense is only scoring 17 points. Buffalo only scored 17 points on their offense. They screwed up field goals at the end of both games. Well, not field goals. They were close to field goal range. They screwed up spiking the ball at the end of both halves. The end of the first half, they messed it up because they fumbled the snap, so he couldn't spike it, so he had to throw it out to a receiver, and then they didn't have enough time. And then the other one, they didn't have enough time to spike it, couldn't get lined up and stuff. I mean, that just goes to show that anything could happen. So, but I know what your point is, Wes. But then I'm going to give you my standard answer. You know you're going to get it. What's my standard answer, Rich?
Standard is the standard?
Oh, no. But we don't play them right now.
Yeah, we don't play
the Steelers get another game before they have to play Buffalo. Because if they had to play Buffalo this week, you're like, ugh. But Buffalo might be feeling the same way. But I like that there's another game before they have to play those teams. So I feel differently after each game.
And it's not.
That's a good question, Wes. That's exactly right.
No, but it's not just the Steelers that we're looking at before that game with Buffalo either. Like we want to see this weekend. What do the Steelers do? Do they come out and play well? What does Buffalo look like?
Yeah.
Do they come out and continue to have some issues? If so, how does that make you feel?
Yeah.
I
want to clarify something because Wes, I didn't know if he answered this. He said I didn't hear anyone use the word guarantee. That wasn't on the show. That was on this show. I was in the live. I haven't been able to see all the live chat. I saw too many people. Like I said, I try to keep my Twitter nice and tight. Everyone's getting a little tight. Sorry.
No,
but
see,
people that
you say that, and
they've guaranteed it. Yeah.
And I go toit.
Toit like a toiger. And your toit pants.
No, toit.
Sorry. Oh,
I'm sorry. I don't speak
freaky deaky Dutch. I was quoting the same thing. Oh, even his toit pants. Yeah. So yeah, that was on I hope I didn't come off the wrong way. That wasn't here in our live chat where I've seen people guaranteeing that. I have seen other people guaranteeing that those are going to be losses. And it's like, wait until they play another game. Don't worry about how you're going to beat the Bills. First, you got to worry about how you're going to beat the Jets.
Let's worry about
how you're going to beat the Jets. Don't blink. You can't come out and say, "Oh, it's the Jets." No, you've got to come out. The goal is for this week. The goal is, Coach Tomlin says all the time that our business is winning. The goal is to win. The goal this week is not just to win. It's not to allow it. The goal is to play consistent, error-free football as much as you can for 60 minutes. Build on things that you're doing right, eliminate things that bring you down, and play the best game you can play while getting the win. Like I said, I don't want a sloppy win this week. This is a week where if you get a win, you need to play well moving forward to have something to roll off of. There's wins that you can build on, and wins that you're like, yeah, I want to see a win this week that they can build on, where they come out and play efficient and effective. Now they got to do it.
and complementary. I think I mentioned that with Jeff the other night. Complementary football. We need the offense to do some things, even if they don't score, sometimes the offense has to sustain some drives to give the defense a break. The defense also needs to then at times get off the field on third down and long early in drives to give the offense better field position. Complementary football.
Yeah. Complementary, complete, collective. There you go. Individually and collectively, come out there and take care of business. Anything else you want to say before we get to scores?
No, let's get to some scores.
All right, Rich. Okay, we'll do it to the live chat in just a moment. Rich, are you ready for your score for this Sunday? Steelers taking on the Jets, 1 p.m. Acrisure Stadium. What do you got?
Okay, so I was finally able. I've gotten someone who has got my Jets tickets for this weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Someone I know. It's someone I know very well, and because of this person right now is the men's basketball coach at the college I work at.
Oh, okay.
At the little community college. So we're in the Maryland JUCO. His theme right now for the team he's put together, and he has put together a heck of a team right now, is going to be offense.
Mm-hmm.
Going to see some more offense from the Steelers this week with Coach Matt in attendance. He is going to bring that boost of offense that the Steelers need. The defense plays solid, and the Steelers win the game 31-17.
So you give them the 31 points. So there you go. There you go. I like that one. For those of you that put up a score already, it doesn't count.
Got to do it again.
I have to bring it up in the live chat first. I'm not giving timeouts anymore or anything for that, but I'm not bringing up the ones that already happened. It's got to be up there. And see, other people are already saying, oh, too soon. You guys were too soon. Yeah. Okay. George Teston. First one in, Steelers, 27-20. Remember, if you don't say Steelers, we're assuming you mean Steelers, okay? Thomas Riley, 34-10. Okay, Bingo Winchester. He has Jets, 24-13. Okay, Steel Dog 88's got 26-21 Steelers. Christopher 11's got 10-24 Steelers. Okay, Brian Brown has 28-27 Steelers. Oh, that game's gonna don't Brian, you're killing me. That game would that would kill me. Even with the win, if it's that, I'm just But I at least I could do a post-game show. There we go. State of the Steelers, 27-17 Steelers. Steelers Pittsburgh, 12-9 Steelers. I love that, Wes. Wes was calling him out in the live chat. Too soon. Steeler Chick 46, 17-14 Steelers. Still going with the low scoring. I could see this going a number of ways. We didn't even talk really about the Jets themselves. Is it going to be Count Flacula? Is it going to be Zach Wilson? To me right now, it's the nameless gray faces. This is about the Steelers doing what they need to do.
Yep.
So Wes says something about he's got a feeling 23-17 Pittsburgh. Great 103 24-17. Claude Bishop 24-21. BF Bud 34-17. Outside Steelers fans, good guys 28, Jets 24. I like that one. Just the added comment he had there. Robert Lucky 23-10. Richard Adamson, 24-18. Kathy Ford, 35-7 blowout. Kathy, I got something I got to say to you after we're done these scores. I'll make sure I get it here at the end. Pedro has 9-6. That's similar to the score I had for Thursday. That didn't happen. John Walter has Steelers 17-13. John Desmond Clark has 17-10. Myrna, Jane, and Bert. I think I said that right. Is it Myrna? Okay. Yeah. They're in here all the time, and I always screw up this name. Myrna. I mean, they'll hit me up one time and tell me when I'm right or wrong. 24-12 Steelers. Okay. John Funker says 27-24. Mr. Woodside has 23-20. Whoop, I just had my whole screen go away for a second. I'm back. Reginald Rivers says 24-17. Jerry Chapin, 2-0 in overtime. Frosty the Bear says 23-17. That one, I had your score. Alan Richter said, I like it because he says the Mitchburg Steelers 24-17. Sherry Richards 30-19. John Williams, love the work that you did on Star Wars. It was classic music. 21-17. I'm sure you've heard that your whole life. Bart Mackey says 21-14. Tyler W. 26-24. That's another one's gonna make me nervous.
26-24. Jets.
Oh, Jets 26-24. That makes me even more nervous, Tyler. Come on. Okay. Michael O'Malley says the Jets 35-3. You know, some people are really on the Steelers are terrible bandwagon, and I'm not saying that it's not without cause. They've got to win games. Jay Hanna says 26-21. I don't know what that is. Okay. Never says 7-6. That's the same thing. Oh, it kept having autocorrect. Boz hits 4. That's what they were.
Okay.
So Faustino Flores says it's been 17 for the offense, so it's going to go 23-21 since that's been the number. 24-17 is from Eddie Powers. And now a lot of people are just commenting on other ones. So if we have one or two come in here at the end, I'll try to bring them up. One thing I would have said, Kathy, I was going to say something to you. This is for anybody, but specifically for Kathy. Kathy, reach out to me. Hit me up with my email, which is, as you see on the screen, my Twitter handle was STLRSuperFanDad. My email was @gmail.com. Kathy bought my book. Kathy read it right away, even left me a review on Amazon. I really appreciate that, Kathy. She wants her book signed. Kathy, hit me up, because if you send it to me, I will sign it and I will send it back. That's all we got to figure out. I've got to get it to where you can send it to me. Anyone out there that has purchased my book, it's not a Steelers book. Some of you might be hearing about this first time. Hey, there's Biggie Bronco. 26-9 Jets. Ooh, why'd you bring that one up? Okay.
Because you said if any more came up.
I said I'd do it. Yep. So Kathy, reach out to me. For those of you who wonder what I'm talking about, my book, you can look for it on Amazon under David Schofield. It's called Ghost Warriors. It is not about the Steelers. It is a young adult fantasy adventure book. I'm only saying that because I did mention it, but I didn't know how else to reach out to Kathy to do that. So And there were other people other than Kathy that were asking about that. So I was letting y'all know. Here we go. Tyler W., $2 in the tip jar. Sad, but don't see anyone on offense with the will to win. I think I know what he's trying to say here. Ben Roethlisberger would will this team to a win. That it would just, you weren't going to stop him. He was going to get them to the win. Yeah. You don't see that right now. But this is a new offense with a lot of young guys. It takes time for that to happen. Did Ben Roethlisberger will the Steelers to win in his first couple of years? I don't know how soon he got there.
Yeah, there were a few games.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I see what you're saying there, Tyler. And that's part of what this offense needs. That's why they're continually growing and have to get better in order for the Steelers to succeed. Rich, you're not going to get to say anything for a while with you being on vacation next week. So you've got to give us some really good, deep closing thoughts.
I'm glad football's going to be back on Sunday and not Thursday where it doesn't belong.
Yep. 1 o'clock kickoff on Sundays where God intended.
I hate Thursday football just in general. Yeah. I know you say you're a fan. I'm not a huge fan, but that's over with for the Steelers now, so I feel much better. Yeah. I'm still trying to figure out what, where, how I'm going to deal with the game on Sunday. I thought maybe if the weather was going to be good down in the Outer Banks where I'm going to be, that I'd maybe be out fishing and have my portable speaker and listen to the game on satellite radio. Looks like it's going to be crappy weather, so I may be looking for a place to go watch the game live.
Hey, as Pittsburgh dad said, hey, that Carolina team, you can't have Myrtle Beach or the Outer Banks. Steelers Nation claimed that years ago. So there's got to be a place to watch Steeler game down there.
Actually, if I felt like traveling, I'd go up to the Hampton Roads area because they do a watch party there every week. They have a different Typically it's a bar and restaurant, and they kind of rotate around to different places that host them every week. But I don't know that I'm going to run the hour and a half or so back up the Hampton Roads. But I am looking forward to the game this week. As I said, this is a game the Steelers have to win. I'm like, I don't want to call it a must. It's not a must. It's the Steelers they need this win. And, I'm going to be, no matter where I'm at on Sunday, I'm going to be sitting there with my Steeler gear on, and I'm going to be doing my best to will this team to a victory. Can't wait.